Okay, we're here with gAuLeS. Is that how you say your name?
Yes, gAuLeS.
Okay. For people who are really, really modern CS fans, maybe they only started a couple of years ago, maybe they don't remember you so much, but anyone who remembers the name G3x, gEx,
Yes.
this is the team you famously played for so long.
Yes.
Okay, actually, let's just start in the present to begin with. Like, currently you're here as like a manager for the semXorah team.
Yes. The thing is, now, me and Paolo Veloso, you remember him?
The guy who used to run MiBR?
Yes,
Yeah.
we are together running a new project called Brazilian National Team. So we get sponsored by IEM II, Cooler Master and another great sponsors. And we help support teams in Brazil to go for the tournaments. The main idea of the project is make a real Brazilian national team to compete in all major events. And now, like my semXorah have the spot for the World Cup, the Extreme Master World Cup, and they don't have money to pay their expenses and all their practice and hotel and food expenses. Yeah. So we help them, and we're starting now a new project.
Ah, okay.
So we are together on this.
So that's why it's semXorah now? Because
Yes.
I know that before you two were like the guys who were picking the team for Mandic.
Yes, yes. It's
the same project, is it?
The Mandic project was a beta project.
Yeah.
We managed the team, and after that we stopped the deal with Mandic, and now we are running our own project. It's something like that, but
yeah.
with other sponsors and a different structure.
Okay. So now that we've got like the absolute present sorted, I want to go like way back in time. So
Yes, okay.
So for everyone who's like just a CS fan now, this is going to be when they're like a little kid.
Yes.
So way back, I used to go to these CPLs back in like 2002. And back at this time, I'll just set the stage for people like mentally. Like at the time, the only teams who were any good in terms of like top teams were always teams from Europe or teams from like North America.
Yes.
If anyone saw like a Brazilian team or Chinese team or Korean team, they all kind of like assumed like, oh, they will lose the next game and stuff.
Yes.
And so early on, people never expected, oh, Brazilian teams will be good. You were playing in this team G3x.
Yes.
And one thing I wanted to start off with was you played in that team actually with KIKOO.
Yes.
And he became famous later in MiBR.
All the players, KIKOO and cogu,
Yeah,
starts on G3x.
later on as well, yeah.
Yes, yes.
What was KIKOO like as a player? Like, what type of player was he?
He's a great player. He was one of the best players in Brazil and one of the best of the world. He won the ESWC with cogu, and NAC and Phoenix are here playing. They still playing. And I started the G3x in 2001. And we won the national qualifier to WCG.
Okay.
Yes, and after that we went in so many CPLs every year. We went 1 or 2 times per year. Almost all the CPLs we was in there and play with KIKOO and cogu and Crash, and it's a long history, and so many players was great.
When you first were playing with KIKOO back then, did you know like this is a guy who's like destined for like great things, like he's gonna go beyond maybe my team, like he's that sort of star type player, or was he like not as developed back then when you played with him? What was it like?
It's a different time. In that time we played just for fun. I think we was young, and the thing we go for United States and Europe just for play. We don't think too much about money and travels, and it was about fun. And Counter-Strike, I think that it's a golden age for Counter-Strike, because we went in so many countries and we have so many tournaments, and right now the things are more internet. In that time in Brazil, we practice on LAN, and we know each others, and we are friends. And now it's all about internet and make teams to compete, and it's kind of different nowadays.
I mean, what was interesting when I looked like way back was like one of the teams that you lost to, a big name team, was Spacebar.
Yes.
And they had, what's funny is this connection is that team had BSL in it.
Yes.
And he's kind of the guy who like put Brazilian CS on the map, because before MiBR was even good, he came to Brazil
Yes.
for like a few months or something, and I think he played with MiBR.
2003 or 2004, I think.
2003, I think, beginning
Yes,
of 2003,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
And then he kind of like famously, because he was like a team leader,
Yes.
he kind of like showed the Brazilians how to play European style. This is the story we remember anyway.
Yes, yes.
And so I was wondering, like, did you know BSL at this time? Did it kind of like help G3x as well that he came over? What was it like?
I think I remember BSL for the first time we play against Spacebar. He's a big guy, and
Yeah.
everyone on CPL know him. And
He had like a Rasta hat on,
yes,
you remember?
Yes, I remember. And he's a great guy. And when he came to Brazil, he teach the MiBR guys. But when we play against MiBR, we learn too. So it's not just about one guy going for MiBR and teach day. I think when a Brazilian team go outside to play or practice, when he comes back, he teach everyone, because we have to practice with the other teams. And BSL was this, because he came to Brazil, teach many things to MiBR, and when we practice against MiBR, we see, oh, they are doing this, or they are doing that, and let's get this way to this style to play. And so BSL was one of, like you said, put Brazil on Counter-Strike map.
Yeah. I mean, as you mentioned before, actually, another player who went on to be famous in MiBR who you played with was cogu.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is, like, he probably, if you think about it, might be the most famous Brazilian player
Yes,
ever.
yes.
But he was way back in your team when your team was still considered like the second team below MiBR.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I remember, I think it was like him being in your team that kind of changed the whole MiBR lineup, because you kept beating MiBR and you were like playing lots of close games with them. And then that's where MiBR had that weird period where they like kicked the whole team, and then they had
Yes.
3 different, this whole weird period.
It's a famous phrase from Paolo Veloso in Brazil. Like one time, cogu has a problem with the other guys from the team, and Paolo Veloso said, MiBR will be cogu and 4 more.
Ah, okay.
Yes,
This is
so- yes.
this was like later in time.
Yes, yes. And when Paulo said that, everyone in Comum say, oh.
They got mad.
Yes, and he caused problem for cogu, because the other players are like, oh, okay. So why I will play for MiBR if you will be every time it's cogu and just 4 more names?
How would you describe Kogu as a player? What was he good at? What was his
He
strength?
He's a dedicated player. Like he came early to practice, and after the practice, everyone goes out and he's still playing and deathmatch and or playing just for fun. He was the kind of guy like obcecated for the game. So he wants the things like
obsessed.
Yes, obsessed. And I want this perfectly, and I will still playing until I get this. So if I can describe him, it's like...
I once heard a story about him from a European player. You know, when MiBR would go to Sweden and they'd boot camp at like a net cafe before tournaments? Someone told me, another European player who went to one of these boot camps, he said that when Kogu used to go to the Inferno Online cafe, they used to like lock the cafe at like 11 at night, and Kogu would just stay in there by himself, play deathmatch all night, and then when they came and opened it up in the morning, he was like still there playing. Is this true?
Yes, it's true. One time in 2007, Paulo Veloso called me for the MiBR because the
CGS?
lineup was to play Counter-Strike Source for CGS, and G3x was picked for Paolo to play for MiBR. And after that, I still in MiBR to act as manager. And one time I was in Inferno Line with Kogu and the other MiBR players after they came back from CGS, and we do things like that. We came to Inferno Line, play all the day, and when they will close, Budak and the other guy from Inferno Line say, you guys can still here playing, and he left all the food and drinks for us and everything, and we play all the night. And when they open the Inferno Line, we go to the hotel and take a little nap.
There's people who, I mean, the thing that's always seemed strange to me about Kogu is it's like, usually in most countries, a lot of the top players are like around the same level. But he was the first player from Brazil where it seemed like he was better than everyone else. Like he was like as good as anyone in the world. Like he's good as like Fraud or Forest.
I
These
think
guys.
nowadays we have FalleN.
Yeah. He's another one. Yeah.
Yes, he's the same kind of player. Like you see, he has a different thing of the. You saw he playing, and you see he can go anywhere, and he can play like anyone.
Do you think these guys have like a different confidence level? Like they think they can be as good as the rest, whereas other people think like, oh yeah, we don't have a chance or something?
I think these guys have like when he comes in tournaments like that, he grow up more. And so he saw players from SK and fnatic and Nav and say, I can beat these guys. If anyone can help me, I can do this alone. And it's a great thing because their confidence are so high that they play very well. So like FalleN, the last WCG was the best statistic AWP player. So
I mean, the strange thing about FalleN actually is when I was saying about Kogu, how when in Europe when we saw him, we saw like, wow, this is a player in Brazil who's actually as good as anyone else.
Yes.
And the strange thing about Kogu was like usually someone who uses the AWP all the time. The other rifles like Colt and AK, they're okay, but like really they need to use the AWP all the time. He was like one of the few players whose Colt and AK was like really good as well.
Yes.
And then when he left the scene, like he wasn't playing so much MiBR, suddenly FalleN came along, who was like almost the same type of player, like same exact strength, same weird setup of a player, and he just like fit into that slot immediately. It's like, was it strange for you that this other player came along just afterwards, who like shares similar traits?
Yes, it's strange because, like you said, Kogu can play with AWP and play Assault as well, and this it's a game changer for the team because many times you don't have money, or in some maps like Nuke and Inferno you can play with AWP all the time. And when the things are wrong for the team, if you have a good AWP like Kogu and FalleN, and he can play with AK, it's really a game changer for any team.
Let me think. Oh yeah, the main one of the main events from your career that stands out to me was the CPL Summer 2004, because. Like I said, people always used to think of g3x, even when you got good, as like, oh, they're good, but they're like the second best Brazilian team. So always thinking their MiBR is above. And then at this tournament, you managed to break into the top 8. You came like 8 CPL. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, you beat 4Kings, who was like quite a famous team at the time still, had a lot of star players. Was what happened to change things so that at this tournament you had like a better run? Because you've been to lots of CPLs before, but it always ended before that period. Like what happened to make it your own, do you think?
I think in 2004 we had a boot camp with 4Kings. They came to Brazil, and we practiced with them like 2 weeks. And after that we grow up in the game. Like g3x can beat 4Kings, and we beat a lot of great teams from Europe and US teams. And I think after this boot camp, because in Brazil we always went in the tournaments, but we never boot camp with other teams. Like MiBR went in Sweden, and other the MiBR guys bring SK to Brazil in that time. Yes, and after we saw that, like, oh, we just go for the tournaments. Let's bring someone or go for just for boot camp. And I think after that, when we start boot camp and practicing against European teams and American teams, the g3x grow up a lot.
Okay. That's interesting because it seemed like for MiBR as well. Later on, when they got to be really good, they kind of, that was like their secret. Like they would, because they had enough money, they could go and practice for a week or two. I mean, do you? A lot of teams, a lot of players would probably think to be like a really good pro, you have to be all the time practicing against good players. But you think like it can work like that? Like as long as you have like say 2 weeks before the tournament, you can get up to shape.
We try for this tournament. Like when we make this project, we get the money and say let's go for Germany and practice on Icebox. We tried this, but they are full booked, and we had to practice in Brazil.
But it's still like the way you're trying to do things?
Yes. Now the next event for us maybe will be the DreamHack, and we are planning to go for Inferno Line, and 1 or at least 2 weeks before the tournament, practice, and I think this is the way, because when I was manager in 2007, 2008, and we won the Game Gun and DreamHack, we always go for Sweden 1 or 10 days before the event and practice with the teams, and I think this is the secret. And with 1 week, at least 1 week before the tournament, if you practice with all the great teams, you can beat them on any tournament, because all the guys, these Brazilian guys are very, very good players. So if they have the chance to play 1, 2, or 3 matches against any team, they can know how to win. So, because it's different when you go to a tournament like this and came on main stage or in the tournament area, and you start playing against them. I think we have we don't know what they will do and what the kind of players they are,
okay.
and they have the same problem. Like we play WinFact today, we play fnatic, and they don't know nothing about us. So it will be a very interesting match.
Do you think that's the reason why, like after the golden period where like MiBR had won the ESWC, they were placing highly, and then the players left MiBR and MiBR couldn't like get enough good replacement players to replace them, so MiBR kind of closed down its project, like it wouldn't spend money anymore. And then even though FireGamers had like as good a lineup maybe, like they never could go in boot camp. You think this is why like the results dropped off too?
Yes, for sure. And now it's the way we try and get back, because for the next tournaments we always will do boot camps in Europe, and we hope that we can win a big tournament again. Like we are hoping we won the DreamHack or this one, or we have WCG this year again, or ESWC again. So I think the structure of the team makes the difference. Like if you have at least 10 days to practice, you can beat them. Okay.
Later on in your career, you actually had this brief spell where you were in MiBR, like you said, because they'd gone to the CGS, the other players, and so they basically brought in the g3x guys into MiBR, I remember. And like one event I wanted to mention to you was WCG 2007.
Okay.
Because of all the storylines people remember of that event, people probably forget like the NOA team who came second and who actually like were the favorites to win the tournament when it was that in the playoff stage. You actually had like a really close quarter-final game against them where both maps were like, there was only like 2 rounds in it or something, you know.
Yes.
I mean, were you really that close to beating them?
Yes, and in the group stage, we went with Istro and fnatic.
Yeah.
Was called the group of death.
Yeah, you tied fnatic, you put them out.
We tied, and we run out fnatic from the tournament in the group.
Yeah.
And after that, we play one team, I don't remember which one, on the next stage, and after that the MTW. And was so close. We said, because Brazil we never get a medal in the WCG, and every year we try. Yes, we have this thing in Brazil, and last year we was so close again with Moscow 5, and in Brazil we have this bad tradition.
Like a curse.
Yes, it's like a curse. We are trying so hard since 2001. For the last 10 WCG, I was in 7. And we never we never
Just
won
the one tournament that escapes you?
Yes. Okay. And I hope this year, last year, I talked with my girlfriend and said, this year, if I have to play to get this medal, I will.
Okay. Another player who was actually really good, but who was in that team, but actually one who people probably don't remember very much, is a player called Ton. The only thing people remember was very briefly. I think some people in Europe noticed, like, he has a pretty good AWP. And people were saying, I think someone even said in an interview that his AWP was better than kogu's or something. Some crazy comment like that, I think some player said. But he didn't have a very long time at the top, and he kind of like was only briefly in MiBR, I think. What was he like as a player?
He was one of the best players, like kogu. He always in Brazilian tournaments, kogu had a lot of problems with Tom to beat Tom.
Oh, when they play against each other?
Yes. It's a hard opponent for kogu or for everyone. But the thing, Tom won the DreamHack in 2007, but he had a lot of personal problems. So he had some personal problems, and he had difficult to manage his career as player and his family and his studies and everything, and was sad because he was in the scene like 5 or 6 years, and when Kogu stops and Tom assumed this position and starts playing, we had a break in Brazil, like Paulo Veloso and MiBR stopped playing all the boot camps and tournaments, and was very sad because Tom can
was this the reason why he kind of wasn't so serious after that?
Yes.
Okay.
And some personal problems, so he decided to stop playing, and was sad because he has all the opportunity to be one of the best in the world.
That same team, the one where you were in MiBR, was probably your best result was when you came fourth at Extreme Masters Los Angeles.
Yes, yes.
And in this tournament, you upset SK Gaming.
Yes.
Even though they beat you later on, you still upset them. And you lost this overtime game to Roccat, the Finnish guys. You remember this tournament?
Yes, yes. Well, it was a crazy tournament because this one was the last for me as player.
Okay.
Yes, and we beat SK, and we was so close to beat WinFact with the
Roccat, yeah.
The Roccat guys. And after that, we went for the finals, but in that time I already be just manager. And it's a different for me because I play Counter-Strike for at least 7 or 8 years, and when you stop playing and make the things behind the players, it's different because you help them with strats and help them with everything, but when the game starts, you was like crazy, think, oh, I wish I was, yes, but you know that because for be a professional player, you have to play every day 8 hours or 5 hours, and at this moment I have my own company, I have girlfriend, and it's a different way to see the game. But the Counter-Strike is in our blood.
You still think about it?
Yes.
It's like I talked to Spawn, and he said like he doesn't have any motivation to actually practice that you'd have to. But every time he goes to a tournament, he gets like an itch on his finger, like he wants to play just because he's went to the tournament, you know.
Yes. In Brazil, last year we had like Brazilian tournament for fun, and each states from Brazil, they pick up like one player to be the captain, and he chose all the other players, and it was states against states, like clan base, but it's not nations.
Just like regions in
Brazil?
Yes,
regions in Brazil.
Which did you do?
Yes, and they pick up me
for which one?
For São Paulo,
and
I chose the guys, some of the semXorah guys and other guys, and I won the tournament and I was playing, so I remember the old times, and it was great because it's different. When you are playing professionally, this kind of adrenaline when you play and you came for this big events like this or WCG, it's one thing that you can never experiment with other things in your life. Like you still playing just for fun, and you have your company, you have your work, but you never have this experience when you make normal things. It's like I think it's like any sports, but in the professional way. Like if you be a soccer player and go for a tournament, you never forget that.
Is it true that in Brazil, maybe earlier on in the time of Counter-Strike, that there used to be kind of a divide between players from Sao Paulo and like Rio de Janeiro? They didn't want to play together, or they only played in their separate cities?
It was because some g3x was from São Paulo, and why Paulo Veloso is from Rio. Some guys from MiBR was from Rio, and Kogu and KIKOO was from São Paulo, but they still playing and practice on Rio de Janeiro. In Brazil we had MiBR from Rio de Janeiro and g3x from São Paulo. And after BSL and other MiBR go outside and boot camp, they knew that if they play against us or practice against us a lot, we can get these things. So
like improve together?
Yes, improve together. So they have they are a little bit afraid to let's not practice with g3x, because if we practice they can get our things, or grow up with us. This was sad because we in Brazil we had less opportunity than teams from Europe or North America, but was one of the things that São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro have this. Oh.
I mean, the sport Brazil is most famous for is football, obviously. And people always say about like the Brazilian football team that no matter what decade it is, no matter what different players are in the lineup, it always has the same style of play, this like samba style of like flowing and like people just kind of like playing off each other. Do you think in Counter-Strike there's a specific style that Brazilian CS has?
For sure.
What is it like?
Aggressive.
Aggressive?
Yes, aggressive. In Brazil we play aggressive, and every time in the gold age or 2001 or 2005 or now we had our own style, and I think it's different for anyone. You don't see teams playing like us in Europe or North America or Asia. I think Asia has their own style, and the Brazilian players have because I think the Brazilian players have this Latin blood. We have more passion for the game. I don't know why, but we scream a lot when we play. We have emotional, like when you see SK playing, they are playing and they are cold. Yes, they are calm, cold, and if they are losing or they are beating hard, they still playing like a rock. And in Brazil, when we won the pistol as everyone, and I think this kind of thing was, we grow up, and everyone, when we beat almost every big tournament, you saw Brazilian players playing. It's a very nice thing to watch, Brazilian guys playing.
What you're saying there, do you think that explains why, like, I mean, the MiBR teams that won like ESWC, the strange thing about that team was they were like a momentum team. Like if they were winning rounds, they would win them all in a row, and then sometimes they would lose a load of rounds in a row. They'd lose the game anyway, or they'd do a big comeback. You know, it was always like they had to be like building up to it. It was never just like win a round, lose a round.
Yes, I think that's why, because you get when you won a big round and watch for your sides and see the other guys is growing up, and you see that, and you came with 1, 2, 3. It's the way.
When you were saying about the style of the teams now from Brazil, one thing I've noticed is all the teams that have been led by Bit, they have this really strange style, and there's even some people in Europe who think it's kind of like, we kind of laugh at it a bit because it's in every terrorist round, they always just wait for like 1 minute, never attack, and then always in the last 20 to 30 seconds, that's when they rush the site. Like, was this always the style that he used? Was he the first one to use this style?
Yes, I don't know why, but Bit have a different style, like, let's make the things look like European, because now we have this problem, like, we are not going for boot camps anymore, and we are coming back with this practice now, but I think for this tournament, we will play like old times. We had a talk with everyone last week, and when we start practicing Brazil, and say let's play this tournament old-fashioned way for Brazil. I think will be a nice tournament to see the Brazilian guys, and we know everyone is saying that we don't have many chances on the group stage, but I think we have.
What I was saying at the beginning of this talk, when I said about how when teams used to think of teams from Brazil, we kind of just checked them off like they won't win the tournament, they won't come top. Even though you weren't in the MiBR team that won ESWC, when you think back like to where you came from in the beginning of your career, is it amazing that a team from Brazil could be world champions?
Yes.
In Counter-Strike?
Yes. I think we have to learn that big tournaments, you have to be there every time. And if you be there every tournament like this one, or like in this year, the Brazilian scene was like, we are waiting for just WCG. Last year the guys played just WCG or 1 or 2 more tournaments, but if you play every tournament, the big tournaments, one time you have to be. It's not, you have to be there every time and growing up and learning and practicing. And if you, like MiBR or G3x, we went in almost every tournament. In the MiBR 2005, they went in every, like 10 tournaments in the year. It's expensive, but if you have great sponsor like we had now, we can go for at least 4 or 5 great tournaments. Like we are hoping this year we went on Extreme Masters, DreamHack, WCG, both DreamHack Summer and Winter, and maybe ESWC. So if you play every tournament, you have more chance, because the guys like last year we played just WCG, and when you guys go for WCG, they think, oh, this is the only chance I have for this year. And if you was playing every tournament, you have more chance, and they are more calm and more confidence, and say, if don't be here, it will be 2 months.
From when I think to after the ESWC win, from my perspective, I always thought like the 2007 when Kogu, etc. went off to play Source and CGS, it actually kind of maybe helped Brazilian CS, because since that was the first Brazilian team to be like a great team and win the world champion and stuff, people maybe thought like, oh, maybe it's just because Kogu's so good, or maybe it's just this one lineup is like the perfect lineup. But then since they left, and they made this new MiBR team, and it even managed to win DreamHack. It's like with a different set of players, it like used the same like system of like bootcamping, and then and they managed to win as well. It felt like it kind of showed that like Brazilian CS itself had like risen up, not just like one player or one team. Do you feel this way?
Yes, I feel this way, because if you have the infrastructure to practice, we can beat them. I say that, and I think like that. We have to practice or bring teams from like SK or Nav or fnatic to Brazil and bootcamp with them. We are planning, me and Paolo are planning for this year, bring at least one great team for Brazil.
Oh, okay. Can you do it again?
Yes, and will be not just for practice with one team, and practice with at least the top 8 teams in Brazil, or make things like to grow up the Brazilian scene again. Because I think Brazil it's one of the most passionate countries for Counter-Strike. People from companies like Cooler Master, Steel Series, and Razer say that Brazil has one of the biggest Counter-Strike communities in the world. They love Counter-Strike 1.6, they love the players, they love the tournaments, and we are planning make things to this community. Growing up again and reveal new talents. We hope soon we can beat all the great teams and won tournaments again.
The lineup where it had like Kogu, NAC, FNX, BIT, these guys, even, I mean, obviously BIT wasn't in the ESWC winning team, but later on when they made that team, just before it split into FireGamers, that seemed like it was still a really good lineup.
Yes.
But then, like you described before, there was this problem where this Paolo Veloso, whatever his name is, basically like kind of caused a split, because he said like, I mean, from what I remember, wasn't it something like, I think like FNX and Kogu were the players who didn't get on very well, but they were also kind of like the 2 star players, so you kind of need them to be in the team together. And when he said that, I'm guessing people thought like, oh, that means we can never kick Kogu no matter what, so Kogu can do whatever he wants and he can never be kicked. Exactly. And that kind of made them mad, like, well, we want to, because I think they wanted to make a lineup that was what they made in FireGamers, they wanted to make this in MiBR or something. So do you think that a mixture of like that situation with FNX and Kogu, and the fact that because they'd won ESWC before, their expectations was like MiBR should always be winning tournaments, they should, and they weren't at this level. This is kind of why the lineup kind of like broke away and it like didn't continue.
Yes, I think that's why, because we won ESWC and DreamHack and Game Gun, the expectations from everyone, from Paolo Veloso and from the players, it was when we go for the tournament, if we get top 4, oh, it's not good. If you get top 3, oh, okay, but you have to win. Yeah. And now it's like, if you have a top 4, everyone in Brazil is saying like, when Ayrton Senna in Brazil dead, it's thing like that. When every time we won for the tournament for the top 1, and everyone's, oh, okay. And after that, when he died, and now we have just some other racers.
Expectation level went down.
Yes. But I think it's when we came back with this new project, and the difference is we don't have fixed players. We will pick up the best players of the moment, the players the players are motivated, and the players we know that he can come and practice and think just about the tournament, and we don't have a fixed lineup like everyone. We will pick up the best players for the moment and bring them to practice and go for the tournament. It's a very interesting project. We start now. This is the first Counter-Strike tournament that we play with this kind of thing, because like semXorah guys had a complete different lineup, and when we came for the project with they, like we will get this spot and we will pick up just one player from semXorah and pick other guys, and we bring FalleN, Nakano, FNX, beat, and we hope we can beat the guys from Moscow 5, in fact, and fnatic and the French guys.
I want to ask you actually about FNX, because obviously, like, since not many of the players from MiBR and FireGamers ever do like interviews in English, fans know them as players, but they don't really know like their personalities. And the thing with FNX was, I wondered, like, I'm guessing when he was in MiBR, he was quite young. All we ever read was like news stories where even though as a player he was really good, there were all these stories where like he was kind of like getting in trouble with MiBR, like he missed his flights, or he was arguing with kogu and stuff. So was he a player who was kind of like, was it because he was so young, or does he have like is he like a hot-headed personality? What is it?
He's a player that he had one of the most talented players in Brazil, and he was young. And say he don't think in the way like, if I lost this flight, everyone lost, because the sponsorship get mad and Paolo get mad, and my teammates are in the airport waiting for me and I don't show up. And I think that in that time he was a kid and don't think in the biggest way, like, oh, I can't wait this opportunity. Like now he was one of the most great guys to work with. Like he don't lose flies anymore, and he helped the teammates. But last years he had some problem, like in 2005 and 2006. It was one of the problems like MiBR had, and I think if he had more responsibility in that time, they maybe continues more.
Actually, I wanted to ask, when kogu did that brief retirement after ESWC, and we heard that he was trying to be like a professional football player, I think maybe he got injured or something, and that's why he came back.
Yes.
Like, how good was he at football? Was he actually like gonna be like a pro?
No, he was good, but not like a pro. Because in Brazil, he had football players.
A lot of good ones.
Yes, and they start playing with 5 or 6 years old, and you cannot be a professional gaming player until 20 and say, oh, now.
But he thought he could do it. Who was he trying to play for?
It was from team from, I don't remember the country, but was some European team.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember exactly the name.
But he was trying to go pro?
Yes, because his uncle managed a team or something like that, and say, oh, came and make a test, and he was, oh, now I'll be a professional player. Now he's finishing his lower
law degree?
Yes. And it's so different, like professional game, Counter-Strike player, soccer player, now
What position did he play in football?
I think it's midfield.
Ah, okay. Was he good?
When we play for fun, he was good.
But not like,
couldn't
be a pro.
Yes. Okay, it's like Counter-Strike, if you get a great Counter-Strike player, but not a pro, and put him with the pro, it's a whole different.
The way when he retired, it seemed kind of like a disappointing way to like leave the scene, because it felt like because of the split between him and the guys who were in this team and who were in FireGamers, like they would never play again together. And so they tried all these different MiBR lineups, and none of them really worked. Like they had some good players, but then maybe it was never like the right mix. Like they didn't have all the positions covered in the game. And so Why do you think he quit? Was it because MiBR couldn't be as good anymore? Did he not care about CS anymore?
I think it's because you have, when you reach a certain age, like 25, 26, and you see everyone from their age or friends or family finishing his college and making money, because with Counter-Strike in Brazil you can make money, but when you have 18 years old or 20 years old, money is one thing. When you have 26 or 27 and you start thinking about building a family, and you start talking, oh, I have to back for study, and I have to make things, to make money, and maybe it's one of the things to make him stop, because you have to decide it, or you will work for Counter-Strike or something like that for your whole life. Or like me, when now I have 28 years old, and when I was with 23, 24, I start thinking, oh, what I will do for the rest of my life. So I went in the college, finished my studies, and now I'm happy with my position, because I went for study, I work in companies like Samsung and other big companies, and now I can still working with Counter-Strike and this great tournament, and will be in the other great tournaments this year and next year, and I can make money from different ways. So I think it's sad, but gaming professionally, you have a few age, like from 14 or 15 to 23 or 25.
It's like a time window.
Yes, yes. And it's a short time window compared with other sports. Like a soccer player can play until 38, 36. And in gaming player, as gaming player, you can play just like 10 years. If you start young, like 15 years.
Okay, to close up, I wanted to ask you a few questions, not about CS, but about sports, because I know Brazilian people love their sports. And so I wanted to use these questions as a way to kind of find out about you as a player.
Okay.
So I wanted to know, thinking of football players, famous Brazilian football players, which Brazilian football player, doesn't have to be current, can be from any time in history, plays football like gAuLeS played Counter-Strike?
It's a tough
Who has
question.
the similar style for you? Or do you imagine yourself as, who would you like?
I would like some great Brazilian captain, because I was captain the whole life.
Okay. So like who?
Like maybe Branco. You
Branco?
remember?
Oh,
Yes.
the defender?
Yes, the defender, but it's not because the defender, it's because the obsession to play and win. And when Brazil won the World Tournament in
94, I think.
94, and he makes a goal against Netherlands.
Yeah.
And he cries. It's like when I play Counter-Strike, I feel like that, when you are making the right thing for our nation. And I never will forget that moment, and when I was a kid and saw his playing, and it's something like that.
Okay. Do you follow MMA, mixed martial arts?
Yes.
I know Brazilian people like this as well. Is there a mixed martial arts fighter who has a similar style to gAuLeS? Can you think of one? Or do you have a favorite or something?
I have Anderson Silva. It's a great
Everyone,
one.
yeah.
But
if he never loses, he has to be, you know.
Yes. But maybe like the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the Royce, and the Graces, because we had our own style, and now Anderson Silva have a different style, but he fights like some other guys from the world.
Yeah.
The only thing is he's better. But I think when I play, I have my own style, Brazilian style, and I like that, like the Grace family. It's something like that, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay. Are you worried that CPL will beat Anderson Silva?
Yes.
You worried about it?
Yes, because the last fight I was live.
Wait, was it
watching,
blowing your mind when you were watching it?
And the Brazilian commentaries and Brazilian... everyone who was watching this fight and saying, everyone was, oh, he lost. And the commentaries are saying, oh, you have to watch a comeback from Anderson Silva against him. And Sunderland, he just finished him. So what was great, and I think that everyone in the world who loves MMA will wait for this fight.
Yeah, it's going to be good, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so to close up, I want to know, like, give me like your final thoughts to any fans watching this, and then if anyone you want to thank or say hello to, just to finish up.
I just want to say thank you for everyone who is watching, and say thanks for Brazilian community, because I know that we are not in a great shape right now, but we are working for that. And in Brazil right now it's like 5 a.m. and I was watching the site, and like 1,000 people waiting for your matches or match. So I just want to say thank you for everyone. And thank you for our sponsors, because now I know that we can beat everyone again and start practicing again. I know that everyone is waiting for this in Brazil. Came back for the golden age.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.